Okay, everyone, welcome to the webinar today. So excited to have you all here. My name is Judy Browse. I'm the Executive Director of NAAEE, and you're in for a treat today with this webinar. We're really happy you could join because we will be talking about an issue that we get a lot of questions about, and that's social media. And I really appreciate all of you who sent in questions. If we actually answered all the questions, we'd be here for about 2 weeks, but we are going to do our best to answer as many questions as we possibly can, because I know a lot of you are in different places with social media, and our presenters are going to cover as much as they can, and we will be looking out for your questions in the chat. So we do have two amazing presenters who I am lucky enough to work with, Jimena and Carrie. And they are fantastic, and you can see here what they do, and I will introduce them in a minute more fully, but just a couple of introductory comments here. The webinar is really going to be all about social media, and some of you are experts and some of you are just starting. And what we want to do is help you build your social media strategy. And for those of you who are experts, please put resources, ideas, and comments in the chat. And for those of you who are just starting, hopefully we'll answer some of your questions and be able to really move us all forward as we think about social media. For those of you who have not been to any of our webinars in the past, they are designed to bring new ideas and insights and new thinking to the field. And we really appreciate all the suggestions that all of you give us on great presenters, great topics. Please keep those ideas coming. We want to be a resource to the field, and we want to present ideas that will help all of us move forward. I do want to thank all our affiliate co-hosts. They are so wonderful. If you are not a member of your state, regional, provincial affiliate, please join. It's a way to be connected to what's going on in your area. And we love our affiliate network, and together we can do so much. There's so much power in the network. And we also work with so many partners. We want to thank EPA and E360 Plus, and all the partners that are involved with E360 Plus that have helped us strengthen environmental education across the country. Many of you know how to use Zoom, but just very quickly, all lines are muted, as you know, but you can talk to us all the time through the chat, and you can either send a message to individual the panelists or to everyone. And so if you have ideas and suggestions, please copy everybody. That would be great. And you'll get a copy of the slides, you'll get a copy of the recording, and you'll get a copy of the chat. So you don't need to take tons of notes. You'll get all of this, but we're really excited to have you join in here and hear firsthand what's going on. I also want to thank our captioner, Stephen. We have live caption for anyone who needs help with the audio, and you can just hit the closed captioning button. And I want to thank Anne so much for all the work that she does on our entire webinar series. So Anne, thank you. And Anne is our Director of Professional Development and the manager of E360 Plus. So Anne, thank you for everything. We're so thrilled to work with you all the time. I'm so lucky I work with such great people, including Jimena and Carrie. And I just want to give a very short intro to both of them before I turn it over. Both of them have so much experience, and I think you're going to learn a lot from both of them. Well, let's start with Jimena. She is really all about building stronger digital communities here at NAAEE. She supports our whole EE Pro community, all the moderators that many of you are connected with, to help spur discussion and new thinking in our 17 discussion groups. She also has worked with a number of federal agencies and brings that experience to NAAEE, most recently with the National Park Service. She hails from Alaska and is a council member of the Fairbanks Climate Action Coalition. And she is just such a wonderful asset to the NAAEE team. So Jimena, welcome here. And then I'll just quickly introduce Carrie as well, who is our social media and communications coordinator here at NAAEE. She is such a whiz at developing graphics, videos, copy for our social media, website work, and all our communication activities. She's been working in marketing and communication for more than a decade. She loves data, which we love, And you'll see she's a wonderful presenter and loves helping others learn about the work we do and the importance of communication. And like Jimena, Carrie is active locally and works in the city of Bloomington to protect biodiversity. She loves music and she works with the nonprofit Girls Rock Bloomington, teaching girls, trans, and non-binary youth ages 8 to 13 how to play a bunch of different instruments and embrace, as she says, their own authentic and creative selves. So we have two wonderful speakers. I am now going to turn it over to Jimena and Carrie to take it away. And thank you all. And let's give them a warm virtual welcome.
Thank you so much, Judy. Thank you for the introduction, and everyone who is participating in today's webinar. We're so excited to host this, to hear from you, and to hopefully share some valuable insights and resources for exactly what we've been doing in social media and what you can learn too. But before we get started, we'd actually really love to get a baseline for where you all are in your journey with social media. So we are going to launch a poll, and ideally you will respond with somewhere between 0 and 10 on where you rank yourself as far as your social media savviness. So maybe you're a 0 or a 1. This is your first time even trying. You're a little nervous, and you're eager to learn. That's fantastic. Maybe you're somewhere in the middle where you've been trying some things, but you know there's some room to grow. Or if you're at that 9 or 10 level, you feel pretty good. And actually, you're here to share some of what you know, and maybe even some resources. So as Judy said, the chat is open, and we're ready to hear from you if there are opportunities to share things that you think are valuable to share with this community. So as you're completing the poll, I can see some numbers. Oh, this is fantastic. We've got a lot of folks who are kind of ranking right there in the middle. We've got some folks who are kind of that 5, 6, 7-ish. And for those 1s and 2s, we're so glad you're here. We will make sure to share our resources at the end. And also, as you have questions, please feel free to share them because we're happy to answer. So we've got a great turnout so far. And again, we're just really excited to have today's conversation kick off. So having said that, let's go ahead and just jump into the plan. So we have a bit of a roadmap ahead of us. We've got a beginning where we're going to be setting the meaningful objectives of your social strategy. It's always best to start in the beginning and to think about where you want to be in the end. So Jimena is going to walk us through that. And we also have an outreach plan that we've got a link for that you can actually follow along and fill out as we go. But we'll also talk about creating your content schedule, kind of when and where to post, how to think about language and images. We'll also be talking about accessibility as we go through today's conversation, because that's an incredibly important part of how you think about connecting with community. Inclusion is paramount to building up a strong community. We'll also discuss the ideas behind tracking and data. Like Judy said, I sure love data. So we'll discuss how to look at the numbers that come from your social media efforts and what to do with those when you see them. So we're really excited to jump into today's conversation. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I'm going to pass it over to Jimena, who's going to introduce a little bit of the language we're going to be using today.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Hi everyone. Before I dive into some quick definitions, I just want to point your attention to the QR code and the bit.ly link here on the right. I believe the bit.ly link will be shared in the chat momentarily, but if you can open that up, that will be a Google document of a worksheet for you to set your goals and your objectives. It'll be a really helpful kind of visual reference as I talk about strategy and goal setting in the next couple of slides. So we'll be sharing that link in a second, but yeah, let's dive into the quick definitions. So a goal is a high-level point of progress, usually aligned to your organization's mission. If your mission is why you do what you do, your goal is what you are doing to get there, to achieve your goal. An objective is those specific, measurable, concrete actions working to help you achieve your goal. And the tactics are those high impact activities that will help you reach your objectives. So it's a bit of a cascading effect there. Each one builds and supports the other. Let's dive into strategy. A communication strategy and a social strategy are different. However, in our discussion within our communications team, we found that although they're different, they're very much interlinked with each other. So a communication strategy helps you identify your goals and the multiple communication channels that will help you achieve your goals. What are these? What's an example of a communication strategy in the multiple channels? Well, An example of that would be making decisions on what to include in your email outreach, or what messaging you want to share in your newsletters, or what time, date to share the newsletters, or what posts you want to share on social media. So that's an example of a broad, comprehensive communication strategy. However, diving into social media, that's one aspect of your communication strategy, but we found it worthwhile to dive in a little bit more with more focus on what a social media strategy is. So a social strategy helps you make decisions to navigate your social media spaces. This is one part of your overall strategy, but we'll be diving into social media strategy a bit more. So for those who are, so again, just want to remind you to open up the worksheet so that you can see some prompts and questions about setting your goals and objectives specifically about social media. And for this part, for those within organizations without existing social media accounts, or really everyone, really want to encourage you to reflect on these questions. Take some time and dig deep. What's the purpose of social media for your organization? What does social media do for your organization? What are you hoping to achieve there? And what value does your social media deliver to your audience? In the worksheet, you'll see that we've outlined how to craft a SMART objective. You may have heard of a SMART objective. We wanted to introduce you to a SMARTY objective. And what this stands for is it's a specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound, inclusive, and equitable objective. Setting inclusive and equitable goals and objectives is an important practice. Some of your goals may not specifically promote equity and inclusion, at least at face value. However, if the outcome specified in your goal isn't specifically promoting equity and inclusion, consider if your audience, your messaging, your tactic or metrics can help promote inclusion and equity. So in your worksheet, you'll see a link at the very end for more about setting those SMARTY goals and objectives. I really highly encourage you all to take a look at that article when you can. It'll just dive in deeper about how to build more inclusive and equitable practices from the very beginning of your communications plan, starting with your goals and strategies. So let's dive into an example of what the strategy looks like in practice. Here's an example of one of our Instagram posts related to our EE 30 Under 30 call for nominations. You can see that the goal is very much aligned to our organization's mission to recognize leadership within the field. The objective, this is one example of one objective within this communications plan, and it is to motivate people to promote this opportunity by March 29th. So it's specific, it's time-bound, it's achievable because it's something we've done for a number of years. We've thought about an audience, and we have a broad range of audience. However, for this objective, we narrowed it down to people linked to inclusion forward networks, working in the field of environmental education and across a sector of fields, with connections to our target nomination demographic, in this case, who are people who are 30 years of age and under. And here in the tactics, you'll see a mix of tactics for communication strategy and social media strategy. We've included newsletters, email outreach, social media, and the videos featuring our alumni was specifically towards a social media strategy of creating relatable content to share with others, to inspire people to learn about our alums, and also encourage them to nominate themselves or nominate someone else they know for this opportunity. So I started speaking a little bit about audience and social media communities. So how do we define, at least how we define community on social media is in three broad categories. There are those who are already connected to you, your followers. The ambassadors are those people who are potentially can bridge your messaging and your content with others who can be your potential followers. They're highly relevant to what you are working on, but just not yet familiar with you. However, don't be afraid to take the first step and break out of your bubble. You can start by diversifying who you follow on your social media. And if you're looking for where to get started, we have a link that I'll be sharing in the chat really quickly. And so just some example or some suggestions for diversifying your social media. So that's one way you can also start to build an inclusive, diverse social media feed for your own social media accounts. And just to dive in a little bit more on audience, a really quick shout out to this article, Mindful Messaging by Spitfire President Kristen Grimm. This article uses cognitive and behavioral science to understand what makes a message more effective. It really dives into getting to know your audience more, how to get to know your audience more, diving into people's values, beliefs, identities. It's a great article. I cannot overhype it enough. Not only does it outline how to get to know your audiences better, but it also outlines how to anticipate your audience's responses and putting it all into practice, what that looks like. By defining your audience and crafting specific frames, messaging, and imagery, you lay the foundation for building meaningful connections with your audience. So we really want to encourage, one of the things we really want to encourage is that you make it a habit to identify your audience, insights from your data, to really reflect and think about this. And you can find these from your social media apps and other tools. And Carrie will actually be diving into this a lot more later on in the webinar. So now you have your goals, you have your objectives, you've thought about your audiences and who you want to reach out to. This is the beginnings of your outreach plan. However, there's a lot more that goes into it. Your messaging, the timing of your post, where to post it. And so how do you figure this all out? Well, to answer that, I will be passing it over to Carrie.
Thank you, Jimena. And it's totally true. You have to find the right place to start, and answering some of these questions about meaningful objectives is critical to having whatever you turn that into with your actual tactics be that much more effective. So if you're working with any kind of organization, institution, nonprofit, governmental body, and you're doing outreach and communications work, you probably have a content calendar. And a content calendar is the place where all of those little things that happen throughout the year or that happen on a regular basis, maybe your monthly newsletter or an initiative that you do twice a year, all of that should live somewhere. I assume you either have one of these or you're starting to work on one. This is a visualization of kind of what we do at NAAAE, where we mark out all of those webinars and newsletters and everything. But when it comes to social media, it is a lot more active than just a monthly newsletter or a biannual fundraiser. This here is a screenshot of what we use when it comes to social media planning. And this is just a calendar filled with all the various sprinklings of social media posts that we plan to do. You'll see that there are some things in here that are actually evergreen content. And that's a great backup if you have a plan for something to launch next week and then something falls through or it doesn't quite happen. If you've got something like a evergreen note about joining a newsletter or participating in some kind of like larger survey, something that's ongoing, that can be a nice backup when things change. But having a plan with all of the sort of working parts that you're going to incorporate into your specific tactics can be really helpful. But before we get too deep into everything about objectives, let's talk about where to post. So we noticed that some of you are still very, very new in the social media space. Some of you have been doing it for a while. So I ask you, where do you have the largest community on social media? Feel free to throw it into the chat, because I do think a lot of times this surprises people to say, oh, wow, I didn't really know that many people were active on Pinterest or TikTok or Twitter or wherever it would be. The questions that I pose here are ones for you to reflect on when you think about where should I be sharing on social media? Where do you have the largest community, but also where do you see the most engagement from your community? Because that tells you a lot about not just maybe where they signed up at some point, but also where do they see the content that they're saying, yes, that resonates with me. Lastly, the question that we've posed is, where do I know I want to be more present? I just haven't done it yet. And that's a little bit more aspirational, and that's a little bit more exploratory when it comes to trying something and having sort of a plan behind trying it and then seeing what turns out. So I love that I'm seeing a nice diversity of things. It does look like we've got a lot of Facebook, a lot of Instagram, and some LinkedIn on here. And you can see of all of these different icons, I'm going to focus today on those top 4. That's really where we put the majority of our time and energy, but there are lots more places that you might find your community. And when you're thinking about where to be present, it is also important to think about what is the right fit for you as an organization, as an individual or an institution. So each platform has its own pros and cons. There are different data privacy regulations. There are different rules and ethics around the fact-finding and verification. There are different ways that people might choose to invest in paid placements versus maybe not spending money in that platform. So that's something that you really need to sort of reflect on yourself and kind of look at your mission and your values to determine if it's the right fit for you. And really, that's what's going to work best, because while we can tell you lots of hard and fast rules, it really is about a living, changing community within your social media platforms. So having said that, we've covered kind of how to think about placements, but I will tell you there are a few that have slightly different technical capabilities. And so I've created this little table for you that just breaks down which of these 4 platforms gives you suggested recommending posting times. So they might say, you know, you've got a lot of people who are active at 8 a.m. or you have a lot of people engaging at 6 p.m. That's kind of helpful because it saves you from wondering, and it gives you the best chance to reach traffic based on what's happening in your account. They all now allow for scheduled posts, which can be a lifesaver, and LinkedIn just joined the group. So I am so relieved that you can actually schedule posts directly through LinkedIn. And for those of you crunched on time who aren't using a third-party platform, that's a really beneficial part of these big 4 platforms here. And then lastly, 3 of the 4, you can edit them after you've posted them, which is just good to know, because if you notice that you forgot to tag somebody, or there's a typo, or there's something you want to add, it's nice to be able to go in and change those versus having to delete the post and start from scratch. So each of those different recommendations and different questions and reflections are meant to help you think through what's the right fit for you. But I will say one of the most common questions people ask is, when should I post? When should you post online? And if you perform a Google search saying, when should I post on social media, you will get so many responses. Everyone has an opinion. Maybe it's this time on Facebook. How about this on Twitter? Another time on LinkedIn. A lot of times you hear the same thing over and over, and sometimes you hear conflicting messages. And you can see that even some of these summaries from different sources say 9 to 6 during the week, or Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, which is very, very broad, or these tiny little windows of 2, 4, and 9 on Tuesday. I can tell you, it just depends. It depends on a lot of factors. So let's jump into kind of how to think about that before we get too hung up on placing an exact number or time on your post. So we as humans fall into a lot of similar patterns. A lot of people first wake up and look at their phones. They check out what's going on their social media platforms. It's just for fun. It's just for interest. And a lot of times it's just kind of a way that people start their day. It's very, very common. So first thing in the morning is a common time for there to be a lot of activity online. There's also a very high trend of people in their midday kind of lunches sort of break, whenever it is that they sort of step away from where their time and energy are going, just take a little me time. So midday is a really common time for people to be active online. On the weekends, you see a lot of people picking up their phones especially, but just doing some dabbling in social media, and maybe their intention behind what they're doing is different. Maybe they're looking for something a bit more than just like scrolling as a little baby break. And on the weekends, we often see people kind of in that last nudge before the Monday through Friday starts, and before the big Monday comes around, looking at social media. But I would have to say, what makes sense for you and your community? Maybe the community that you are connected with, they don't have that same schedule. They don't have that same flow of consistent timeframes and planning. it may be that they're doing things differently, but maybe they're doing things the same. So it will be really important to look at your own data and what happens within your post to understand if this actually is the way that your community is behaving as well. And if you came to this webinar because all you wanted was for Carrie and Jimena to tell you when to post online, fine. I will tell you, generally speaking, 11 to 2 is a really busy time online. So if you're looking to make a splash, that's when a lot of people are online. There's a lot of competition because of that, but there it is. But really look at your own data. So we're figuring out where to put our different messages, what time to put our different messages, but what about the message itself? So these 3 boxes have lots of ideas for the kind of content that you might write a post around. It may be a tone. It may be the kind of specific message you're including, like storytelling. It could be just really logistical stuff, but there are all these different ways to post. And it's really important to try different things and find out what resonates with your community. In fact, we're going to have you kind of internalize this, maybe take a screen grab of it, because we're actually going to see if you can tell what's happening with them within some of these example social media posts as far as how they may have thought about or approached their messaging. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this first one. First image, it is for a PowerShip network. And if you can recall kind of what we saw from that list there, I'd love to have you chime in the chat with if you think you have an idea of what they went for when they made this post. It's the announcement of their annual conference in New Orleans this spring. And so, yeah, and Jimena just added a bunch of examples. So this one, when it came out, it was big, it was bold, and really the idea is to grab attention and have something that is recognizable moving forward. Yes, that's great. I love it. This is the example of getting attention, building excitement. And this pin, not only did they post it, but this post was pinned by this account and has since gotten more attention than any of their other posts in the last year. So it has been huge, and it is really recognizable as who they are. All right, so in the next example, I'd love you to weigh in. We've got the Children in Nature Network, and here is what they've typed in case it's a little hard to read. This is their post saying they're joining our Greening School Grounds and Outdoor Learning panel at the Learning Planet Institute Festival 2023. Come together and learn to take care of oneself, others, and the planet. You have a sense of what they're trying to accomplish when they say, come together, learn to take care of oneself, others, and the planet. That could be seen as a problem-solving solution, where it's saying, you might have things that you're trying to do, and we're trying to give you the tools, the resources, and that community. That's, by the way, all answers are great answers. By the way, this is not a test, but yes, that sense of we're trying to help you get to what you're looking for. Okay, another one we've got here. This one. Now look at that smiling face. This is a post by one of our amazing 30 under 30 alumni, and it was focusing on ocean literacy and the principles of ocean literacy. And yes, the themes were all sorts of fun, engaging activities. And what I can tell you is that it also was an opportunity for us to make a collaborative post with Carlos Perfectiburon. And so we were able to put that together and share it across both of our networks, which really bolstered the resonance of the post and also who all got to see it. So yes, that was one that was a lot of fun, and we definitely enjoyed it. So thanks, Carlos, again, for being part of that. All right, so we've got another post here that went up on the NAAA social media account. And here you can see, you may have to zoom in a little bit, but this is basically, this is a picture of Nelson Holland. He has a social media account where he was wanting to make sure that there were others who might be like him who don't quite feel like they fit into the natural space. What is a way that he could help kind of build that up and build up that sort of feeling of belonging? For this example, we tried some storytelling, and of course it led right to an article all about Nelson's journey. And this piece on Facebook in particular had a huge reaction. It was really beautiful seeing how many people saw this and said, that's fantastic, good for you. We're so excited about it, and continuing to grow his community as well. All right, next one we've got here is an example where you can see it's the Aldo Leopold Foundation. And here you can see there's a clip from a video, and there's also some details about something going on. So if you think you have a sense of what this might be, as far as how they were thinking about the messaging that they might include, the way they might talk about it, feel free to chime in on this. And for the sake of time, I'll spoil it a little bit to say this post was actually a last push for making sure that if anyone wanted to attend, they were able to. And on top of that, they also did it as a video. They shared the fact that if you attended, you would be entered for a drawing for a copy of after this talk with Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer, you'd be entered to win a copy of her book. And also they included the link in case you wanted to sign up right then and there. So it was really easy, but it was also really enticing, kind of a last minute option. And then lastly, we have one more example here. This is National Park Service. It says, if you come across a bear, never push a slower friend down, even if you feel the friendship has run its course. If you don't know the National Park Service social media accounts, I highly recommend that you check them out. They are such a delight to read, and it's certainly an example of showing their personality in their posts. And we love the idea of making sure we're sharing and passing along resources. So if there's a social media account that you love to follow for inspiration, ideas, a laugh when it comes to some of these topics that are really intense topics, we advise you to share that in the chat or make it known who you like to follow. But National Park Service is well known for its humorous approach, but also educational. And then even in the comments, they're great with that little back and forth banter. But we know that 34% of consumers follow their favorite brands because they want to see their personality. So if you're not showing your personality in your social media accounts, I'd highly recommend you think about how you want to do that. And it doesn't have to be silly or overly clever. It can just be authentic. It can be more poetic. It can be more serious. It's really who you are, but showing that through your posting is really important and really does help build up your community a lot. All right, so we've got a couple quick tips for you before we kind of move on to the next phase of our conversation. This one is actually really important. So if you are taking notes today, I would recommend that you write this one down if you don't know it already. When it comes to using hashtags are an easy way to either label your content for easy connection and recall, or to bundle it with other things that use that same hashtag, so that if you are constantly posting in a similar vein of ocean literacy, for example, or environmental education, for example, it's an easy way for people who are interested in that topic to find that topic over and over again. But one thing that is less well known is that while all the different social platforms typically prompt ideas for hashtags in all lowercase letters, it's really important to use camel case, which is where you capitalize the first letter of each word, because screen readers, when they read it, can't distinguish between which word is which if it's not capitalized. And so to improve the accessibility of your posting and to make sure that anyone who is using different tools to be able to absorb it are able to understand what you're saying, especially within things like hashtags, using camel case allows for that distinction there. So that's a quick tip for you. Hopefully you'll take it away and put it into consideration. And then the second tip that we have has to do with a very specific issue, but something that also isn't always well known. If you're using Instagram, there is just that big bummer of not being able to click on links in your caption. And it's something that hopefully they will adjust in the future. But until then, people have to get creative with how they share a link when posting on Instagram. So first option is you can just share it on your website and say, check out our website for this specific piece of content. I would say if you don't want to just overload your homepage with all sorts of extra articles and content points, you can also use a link shortener. And if you use a link shortener, typically having something that's really easy to remember, like more than a like 2023, for example, that's a great way to have people be able to go and find it, knowing that sometimes platforms like Bitly are case sensitive, so that is important to know. Or third, you can use a link in bio tool. And at the end of this slide deck, we also have some examples of link in bio tools that are free, that are easy to use, but you can see two examples of how people use them. And the goal there is to make it so that people can go and not only get to that link, but also see all the things that you've linked before and see them pretty easily. So if you haven't tried that yet, I definitely recommend looking into it, exploring some different options, and certainly throwing it into the chat if there's something that you strongly recommend or have had some experience with. So we've been talking here about all the different content that you're putting together, and we have mentioned different language, but we haven't talked as much about imagery and image selection, kind of how you think about where you get your images and what you do with them once you have them. So I'm going to pass it back over to Jimena to give you a chance to learn a little bit more about how we think about it and what tools we use.
Thanks, Carrie. Before I dive into how to choose accompanying imagery, a really good question came in the chat, and I wanted to highlight it. The person is asking, it was related to what you shared about the National Park Service communications team sharing banter in the comments. And so the question in the chat asked, so is it one person that does the banter throughout the day? And the reason I wanted to bring that question up to you, Carrie, is because it reminds me of the times that you will share a comment that you've seen on NAAW's communication channels, and you share it with the communications team. So I wanted to ask your thoughts about working with a team, within a team, to kind of help with some of the load when it comes to sharing and commenting on social media. What are your thoughts on some of the best ways to do that?
That's a great question. And I don't know how National Park Service does it. It's so clever. I assume they have a team of, Saturday Night Live writers style folks there, because it's always so clever and so witty and so educational. I would recommend that you think about how well you can speak for all the facets of your organization or the work you do. At NAAWE, we have a lot of programs. We have a lot of people who are deeply invested in what they do. So Jimena, like you said, there may be something that comes through, and I'll reach out to the communications team or the advocacy team or our Natural Start team. I'll reach out to them and say, hey, I saw this come up, and I'll either have them weigh in on what they'd like to say, or I'll give them an idea of what I might reply with, or they might just jump in and share themselves. So I think it's really important to think about whose voice it is you're representing, and if your voice alone is the right one to use, or if it makes sense to bring somebody else in to make sure that you're sharing your thoughts. I wish that I were as witty as National Park Service, so maybe I'll start asking more people around NAAWE how we can be more silly. But I would say that it's important to make sure you're considering who you're speaking on behalf of.
Oh, thank you, Carrie. You're definitely a very witty person. Love having you on the communications team. There's a couple more questions in the chat, but just in the interest of time, I'm going to dive into image choices. So to just briefly recap some of the accessibility and inclusive points that we've made throughout the webinar, we've mentioned how to craft a SMARTY objective and goal, and encouraged you all to break out of those siloed bubbles, diversify your social media by following new people and accounts. Just now, Carrie highlighted how to make your hashtags, your messaging, how to make your hashtags readable, how to make your messaging inclusive by tying in, connecting other voices and collaborating, and also how to make your shared links more easily accessible. So on this slide, here are a couple of tools and articles that we have found really helpful when it came to these specific categories. Let me know in the chat if any of these are familiar, or if there's another tool or article that that's a favorite of yours. But let's dig into, how do you choose images to accompany your messages, your copy? So in tip number 4 from the Digital Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Communications article, and again, we will be sharing all these links in a separate resources slide at the end of the webinar. But this tip number 4 really highlights how the imagery your team chooses has an impact. Now, stock images are flawed because they don't directly depict the reality. However, if you rely very heavily on stock images like NAAWE, there are a couple things to be aware of when choosing stock images. 2 things: being aware of the people in the images, and also the setting of your images, because the background is also a part of the message. And going one step further, when choosing an image, I want to encourage you to not shy away from expanding how the environmental education field is portrayed. There are a lot of people doing this work, and we want to respect and represent and honor the range of identities within this field. However, when you select an image, it is a very good idea to pause and ask yourself, why this particular image? What am I saying by pairing this image with my, this copy? How might it reflect on the community represented by an image? Now, at NAAE, we are still learning. We are still learning. However, I want to really emphasize a point that Carrie also made, is that we do not do this work alone. We collaborate, we discuss this as a team. I can't tell you how many Slack threads and messages Carrie and I have shared discussing what does this image say? What about this image? What does this word choice say? It really helps. This is really a team effort. I really want to emphasize that. We understand that there are some communications team where it's a one-person communications team, and it's real, it's challenging. However, we want to share, we'll be sharing a link to some photo libraries of stock images relevant to the field, but also just want to encourage you all to there's a lot of resources out there to look for at those resources. Join those spaces where these discussions are taking place. The Communications Network is a really great place at our that's all about communications, and they have specific spaces about these types of topics. So really want to encourage you to just, it's a team effort. So just now that you have all of your image assets, I wanted to share a quick note about how to create an image library. Think about the type of images that you are collecting. Are they mostly stock images? Are they photos from your programs or events that you've hosted? How are you organizing them? Remember, some stock image companies require you to license images for a very specific use. Similarly, some of your own photos might be approved only for this very specific use. So how do you track which photos are approved for what uses? A running document. That is your answer in the screenshot, and we'll share a link to a template of this. But in the screenshot, you'll see kind of a template of a running document that goes from file name all the way to where you are posting your photos. It includes all the details, the credits, the image descriptions, captions, keywords. It's so helpful. Keeping a running document of your photos will help you stay organized and keep your team informed. It will help make sure that you're using the attributions as required, because all of the information is in the document. And really, just to summarize it, an organized image library helps your staff, all of your staff, past, present, and future, find and appropriately use your image assets, saving you time and effort.
Jimena, I love that you share that. And we're hearing from folks in the chat that there is a lot of, one-person shops or folks who are really busy with a lot of things. So I really appreciate you sharing that and kind of sharing some of those tips. And speaking of tips, somebody did mention in the chat that they were curious about how to make sure they're reaching the folks that they're the audiences and community they're trying to connect with through each platform. And there are two different sides to this, and I want to make sure we address it for those of you who are curious. One is that each platform, as you are participating on it, will give you an idea of the demographic, the age, sometimes the, like the geographic region and things like that of the people who you're connected with. And that can tell you, do you have mostly 20-year-olds? Do you have mostly 60-year-olds? All of that, it's all going to be in sort of that data side of each of the platforms. But I would also think about all the different platforms that are out there right now and which ones make the most sense for kind of how you're trying to interact with people. Somebody asked about young folks, and unfortunately, a lot of young folks don't use Facebook as a platform that they're sort of communicating on. It might be used for like events and things like that, but not as much with kind of the exchange, or at least in the United States, that's what we see a lot. Some of the accounts like Instagram might be a little bit more in the mid-age range. A lot of people do use it. But honestly, the reason I had the snap icon at the beginning was because a lot of young people use that. It's more for texting and things like that, but it's still something people use. And TikTok, of course, is a platform that is just grown by leaps and bounds. Now, the difference is some of these platforms use video content instead of imagery, instead of posting links. And so when you're thinking about where you want to go, thinking about what the media looks like on that side of the platform decision is also important. We discussed doing TikTok here at NAAE, and we said, okay, what does that look like? How would we create content in a way that's engaging, that's giving people what they're interested in and helping them understand what they can do through environmental education? But I would say looking at the data that you can see will help you understand where they are. But then also really considering what does it look like to post on that platform? And does that make sense for what you're capable of and what you're interested in doing and how you want to get your message across? All right, so having said that, I'm going to move a little quickly. We've got so much in this webinar today, but we really are going to run short on time. So I'm just going to move through this concept here of building your community on social media. So for as much as everyone that's connected with you on social media has differences, there may be different locations and professions and things like that, they all have one thing in common. They're all connected to you. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and just jump into a little bit more about the data side of things so you can understand how to know when it's working. Now, I know some people don't want to talk about data. Get on the phone with me for an hour. I promise you'll fall in love with it. But these are some of the words that come up when we talk about performance and measuring what happens in social media. But to make it clearer, I've got a couple different ideas of the categories of what the different metrics fall into. So we have things like the reach and impressions, which is basically how many people saw what you posted. We have engagements and likes and loves and comments and engagement rate. And that's basically the people responding to what you're posting. It tells you a little bit about the quality of what you're posting and does it resonate with people. If not many people saw it, but every single one responded, that's a great sign that they liked it. It's figuring out how to grow that reach that you have. And at the bottom here is sort of that example of the ambassador of how often are people sharing it and saying, this is so important. This resonated with me. This is totally the job for you. As they share it around with their networks and their communities, that's a way for you to grow in sort of the network that you have and people's understanding of who you are and what you're doing. So there are different ways that you can engage with your community. It could be things like replying to comments that people make on your posts. Like Jimena said, that's something that we've been doing. You could also add questions or surveys or call in the folks who are connected with you to say, tell us what you think. There are different tools like polling and things like that you can do within platforms, but it's also good to share posts from other organizations and individuals. It's kind of like being a good conversationalist. It's not just about take, or I'm going to give you what I need you to know. It's how do I pull in information from you, share with me. I want to learn your story. And I also want to amplify what's going on in our community as well. We're going to take a quick poll before I get too far into the nitty-gritty data stuff. I would love to know, what tool or tools do you use right now to track or understand your social media performance? So there are a couple different examples that we're going to walk through as far as the options, but I'd love to hear if you're doing anything right now to know what's going on in your social media accounts. So feel free to weigh in on that. I'd love to have you just write it into the chat if you'd like. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and assume that a lot of you are a little data nervous, and that's totally okay too. When we think about what we're doing within social media, there are a few different options that you have for what to do within it. The first option is going to be just using the interface reporting. We've got a lot of people saying insights, meta, things like that. Perfect. Those platforms, it's them sharing with you kind of all the things that they've accumulated that you can just look at with just a click of a button. You can do your own analysis, which I personally love, and we'll talk about a few examples for that. We've also got a template that you can link to within the deck, or you could use a third-party tool. All right, so now that you're primed on the excitement of what data can be and how it represents your community, let's go into option one. So within the first option, interface reporting. First and foremost, I would highly advise that you know how to get a link to a specific post. That's helpful if you want to go pull specific metrics for that post, and each platform has a different way of doing it. So at the very end of this deck in the appendix, there's the screenshot of each one. But here you can see in Twitter, this is where you go in to find the link to that particular tweet. So if you want to go back and see how it did, you can go find it. So once you've got your link to your tweet, then you are going to go ahead and jump into what the performance looked like. And in Twitter, as an example, they have their own analytics platform. Each platform has its own. But Twitter, what they're going to do is they're going to show you a sort of a snapshot of what's happening in your account. The reason you might use interface reporting is because the interface itself is teaching you what's happening in the way that's most important to that platform. So a lot of platforms have different algorithms that shift and change and optimize based on what's working and what's not. And so when they're saying, oh, your engagements look like this, your followers look like this, your shares look like that, they're telling you because those are the things they're measuring and figuring out where you fit into that big sea of communication. So looking at the interface reporting, I would also recommend that you try exporting some of the data. Each platform lets you export, because a lot of times that includes other metrics that you don't just see in the interface. So you can do that. It gives you a really quick idea of some of the different changes in how people are responding to your content. And then as you get more familiar with it, you may try to do your own analysis. So your own analysis, again, you've got a link at the end of this that will get you going on it. And there's a QR code here if you'd like to just jump right in. But in your own analysis, what you would do is actually pull the metrics from the interface, either by exporting, by manually typing, or by using a third-party tool to export all those metrics together. In this example, I've got Facebook stats here. So I would have, maybe if there's a theme to the post that I'm making, it's nice to track those. And then the details of when and some of the different specifics of what happened from the post. But as you accumulate all of these metrics into one nice, beautiful spreadsheet, you can start to pull insights of what's happening there. And on this next slide, you can see I've made, and this is in the document as well, a heat map, which highlights in green where the number is really strong, really high, highlights in red where it's not a good number, and all the things in yellow and orange are kind of the in-betweensies. So what I'm doing when I look at this table is I'm saying, okay, this is breaking down the day of the week, the time of day that the post went live, and then I can see how many people did each one reach? How much engagement did they each get? And what was that ratio between the two that kind of denotes that bit of quality? As I look at this, I can start to say, oh, that's cool. I had a couple of these different posts that went live at 8 a.m. on a Thursday. In fact, I see a lot of Thursdays on here. Thursday's got a lot of traction in different ways. Okay, Thursday, noted. Remember when I was saying there's not a specific time that's right for everyone? This is how I know it's right for me. And then I see a great big red streak of performance. And I say, okay, whatever that was, it didn't go very far. It didn't see many people. It didn't get any interactions. Something was up with either that post or the timing. Okay, I can explore that and learn from that. So it's a really quick way to look at it and kind of get a feel for what's going on. As a bonus, I would also recommend that you pull in your social media follower count. Yes, each platform tells you how your followers fluctuate, but I'll tell you this, if you track it on your own and can see what's happening across each platform, it gives you a much better sense of what's actually happening within your larger community. This is an example. It's not exactly our numbers, but it's kind of an idea of what it might look like across each of these different platforms. So we've got all of Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter here. And then what we do is we'll look at this, add that heat map sort of conditional formatting back in, and I can see all these colors pop up. So for those of you who are excited about data, tell me, what do you notice? Not even what do you interpret, but like you see this big table and it's like, whoa, I'm seeing a lot of what, or I'm noticing a what. I, for example, can see a lot of like greenish color, consistent numbers across LinkedIn. There are a couple little perks in the middle section, but not a lot of change. Twitter, just there's not a lot of activity and a lot of growth going on. And we also see a big drop. And that was, for those of you who kind of follow what was going on with Twitter, that was where a big change was happening in how the company was run. I can also see that in Facebook at the very bottom, there's a huge drop. In fact, an alarming drop. And if I hadn't been tracking what was going on each month, I may not either realize it or understand kind of what was happening at that time. What I know is that we had a really big jump, kind of, or not big, but out of character jump in the fall months beforehand. And then all of a sudden, we lost a ton of our count. So what that turns out to be is Facebook was going through and pulling a bunch of its bot traffic and bot accounts and things like that. And so a lot of the accounts that we lost weren't accounts that we were interacting with. Phew. But not knowing exactly what's happening means it's hard to know when something is happening that's meaningful and when something's happening that's just kind of the way that things work. And paying close attention to your data sure helps a lot. So those are examples of how you can do it yourself. But I will say a really easy way to get these great insights is to use a third-party tool. So I have 4 examples at the bottom of platforms that offer discounts to nonprofits. I know we've got a lot of nonprofits in attendance today. These all offer discounts. I've seen in the chat there are a lot of folks who are sharing about the tools that they use and things like that. But you can see here there are a lot of ways that you can really benefit by using a third-party tool. And if you have end of year reports that you have to do, I'll tell you this, it makes it so much simpler to have these quick takeaways across all of your platforms in one place. So considering using a third-party tool is something that can be affordable, but can certainly be an advantage, especially if you're crunched for time. So having said that, what we do when we pull all of our data and then kind of look at what's going on and start to pull out those different performance notes, we have to ask ourselves, what do we do now? So I would say that that's going to be one of the most important things that you can do after you're posting your social media, is taking a look and saying, is this doing the thing I wanted? I filled out that objective plan and I have my goals and my Smarty layout and everything. Did it work? That's what you need to be asking yourself. And as you look through your posts, as you look through consistencies on your platforms, you'll start to see, yes, this is working, or this just really didn't work out here. We've had things that on Facebook didn't work at all in the way that they worked so well on LinkedIn. I'm not going to throw either out because of it, but it tells me, okay, if I really want to get more engagement or more information or more resources, this platform is the place to do it. So having said that, there are some reflective questions to think about when it comes to your community. And I'm really excited to pass it back to Anne for any questions that we have, and really appreciate that so many of you have been chiming in with so many examples and resources and questions. This has been really wonderful to see how you've all been involved. So we can't wait to share all of our resources with you when we're all wrapped up. But for now, I'll open it back up to Anne for questions.
Thank you so much, Carrie and Jimena. So many wonderful questions coming in. I don't know where to begin. We did have a question here from Sabrina that's asking, how do we deal with bots and fake profile accounts? Do you have any recommendations for that?
Well, the good news is that most of the platforms do try to purge those every now and again, so that's helpful. But then when it comes to maybe like spam content and things like that on your posts, really the most effective thing that we found is just continuing to report them, hide them, and just let the platforms know that that's what's happening, because a lot of times they kind of stem from the same location and can be shut down pretty well. So I'd say don't be afraid to delete those or hide those or report those if it's actually something that is spam or bot style of traffic. And then as far as the performance side of it, I wouldn't worry about that piece of it, because it's rare that that actually interferes too much with the performance side of things.
Good advice, Carrie. Thank you. Judy, did you have another question?
There were a couple of questions that we can answer offline about. Carly asked about how to target educators in colleges and future educators. So there's some about specific audiences, but several people had mentioned they're the lone person doing social media. They're doing it on the side. They're a board member. Any tips on if you can't do all of this, like what would you prioritize, Carrie and Jimena?
Yeah, and Jimena, you can chime in too, but I would say think about what you're trying to accomplish. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to be with all the like different fancy gimmicks or media styles or things like that. Think about what's important to you and focus on that. You don't have to be everywhere and you don't have to share about everything, but if you're able to have those little like engagements of liking and commenting and sharing on other people's things just to show them that you're there and that they can spread some of your content, that can be really helpful in saving time. And then also just really focusing on what's the right fit for you. And some of those third-party tools are helpful because you can do a bunch of things all in one place. And that makes it easier than going from interface to interface to interface.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to touch upon, somebody asked about this slide. Just wanted to share that all of these links will be included once the slide is uploaded on the EE Pro learning post. And I also just want to, because we're running out of time, I just wanted to share a link to the learning post. There's a comment section at the very end of that post. Please continue adding your questions, your thoughts and comments on there. We would love to continue this discussion on there. But yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that all of these links will be accessible at the end once we upload the slide onto our EE Pro website.
Thank you, Jimena and Carrie. Great job. Great job. I'm going to turn it back over to Anne, who's going to close us out, but really wonderful feedback in the chat. Thank you so much for all you do for NAAE and for the field. Thank you.
This was so wonderful. Thank you both. And yes, we are running out of time. We will definitely be continuing the conversation on EE Pro. And we're just going to close out, take the last minute here with some reminders and a couple of announcements of some exciting opportunities happening at NAAE. So first, yes, I know everyone wants the recording and the notes and the chat and the slides. We're going to send that out to everybody by the end of this week. It'll be sent to your emails and we'll post it to EE Pro on the same exact page you went to register for today's webinar. So do not worry. And we have an exciting announcement. If some of you joined our webinar back in January with the amazing Parker McMullen Bushman, we have a follow-up interview to share. Just like today, at Parker's webinar, we had so many additional questions in the chat that Parker didn't get to. So she graciously agreed to sit down with us again for another interview. And we're going to be sharing that interview very soon by the end of next week. So stay tuned. We're going to share it on EE Pro, an incredible follow-up on environmental justice and the future of EE. And if you liked today's webinar, and if you want to learn more about all of our past webinars, including recordings, speaker notes, and more, check it out. Again, go to EE Pro, head over to Learning, and the link to EE webinars. You'll see our entire suite of past webinars going back 5, 6, 7 years now. So much great content. And we're going to wrap up with just a couple of more announcements. Jimena mentioned this earlier. We are now recruiting for the 30 under 30. This is our amazing recognition program that recognizes young people doing amazing work across the globe. You have one more week to recommend somebody. You can nominate yourself, you can nominate others. Just head over to our website to learn more about this exciting opportunity. And we are launching another Sea Change Fellowship. This is a longer term fellowship. It's about a year, where folks up to 30 from also around the world are building leadership in civics and environmental education. That's what the CEE stands for. If you head over to this link or to this URL code, you can learn more, including the entire RFP, and you can sign up for the April 6th informational webinar. And the last announcement I want to mention is that we are ready to accept submissions for our 2023 virtual conference. We are going to be virtual this year, and we just opened up the call for presentations. We are looking for some amazing sessions that advance the field of environmental education, especially when it comes to equity and inclusion, and that resonate with our conference theme this year, which is so great. So please send us your submissions. Submissions are open right now. And we've been talking about social media. So if you're not following us, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. If you want to hear the latest news about what's going on, webinars, or anything else that we're doing, check us out and follow our online newsletter, EE News, for all the latest. And that is it. Thank you so much. Thanks again, Carrie and Jimena. Thanks to all of you for spending the afternoon with us. And we hope to see you on another webinar very soon. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.